Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're tackling a massive economic theory, one that has basically jumped straight out of academic philosophy and landed right in the middle of our most urgent modern policy conversations. We are talking about universal basic income.
So I want you to just imagine something for a second. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, checking your phone, and boom, there's a payment sitting in your bank account. And the crazy part? You didn't have to prove your income, you didn't fill out a mountain of paperwork, and you definitely didn't have to explain your life story to a caseworker. It just arrives, like clockwork. It's not a loan, not some temporary pandemic stimulus check, just a guaranteed, no strings attached deposit. What would you do? Would you stay at your current job, maybe learn a new skill, finally start that business you've been dreaming about?
Now, this thought experiment, it's actually becoming fiercely urgent right now, and here's why. Experts project that artificial intelligence and automation could soon automate a staggering 60% of roles in advanced economies. 60%. We are staring down the barrel of unprecedented technological unemployment. And frankly, it's forcing us to completely rethink the fundamental link between human labor and our basic survival.
To make sense of all this, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll explain the UBI concept. Second, how it would actually work mechanically. Third, we'll look at some real-world experiments. Fourth, the systemic case for UBI. Fifth, we'll dive into the major challenges and debates. And finally, we'll explore what a future beyond work might actually look like. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the UBI concept explained. Put simply, universal basic income, or UBI, is a systematic social safety net. It's a system where, literally, every single person receives a regular cash payment from the government or a public fund, just to cover basic needs. And here's the truly radical part. You get this just for being alive. You could almost think of it like a citizen's dividend. You know how shareholders get a cut of a company's profits? Well, in this system, citizens receive a dividend from the shared prosperity of an advanced society. The whole idea really rests on four crucial pillars. First, it's universal, meaning everybody gets it, rich or poor. Second, it is completely unconditional. There's zero requirement to work, look for work, or prove that you're struggling financially. Third, it's paid out in pure cash. This is huge because it gives you the personal choice to spend it however you need to, rather than getting locked into restrictive food vouchers or housing subsidies. And fourth, it shows up reliably on a regular, predictable schedule, like weekly or monthly. Moving right along to Section 2, how would UBI work? Executing something this massive really boils down to a pretty straightforward three-step process. Step 1, institutions have to set the payment level. In the US, proposals usually hover around $500 to $1,000 a month per adult. Step 2 is automatic distribution. This would likely be a direct bank deposit with absolutely zero bureaucracy, no caseworkers, no applications. And Step 3, which is definitely the trickiest part, is figuring out the funding source. Are we talking progressive taxation, a sovereign wealth fund, or maybe consolidating the welfare programs we already have?
Let's look at some actual data in Section 3, real-world UBI experiments.
Because, believe it or not, we actually already have diverse geographical proof that unconditional cash transfers work. Take Alaska, for example. Since 1982, residents have been getting a yearly dividend funded by oil revenues, and studies show it consistently reduces poverty without hurting employment at all. Or look at rural Kenya, where an incredible 12-year trial is giving villagers about 75 cents a day. The result? Better housing, better mental well-being, and a huge boost in small business investments. Even in Stockton, California, an 18-month pilot giving folks $500 a month actually led to increased full-time employment. Why? Because having that little bit of a financial safety net gave people the stability to manage crises and take the time to actually hunt for a better job. So, Section 4, the case for UBI. Proponents of this idea point out that it's a massive upgrade from how we currently help citizens. The old welfare system? It's highly bureaucratic, it's fragmented, and it has these terrible things called benefit cliffs. That's when earning just a tiny bit more money at your job causes you to instantly lose your government assistance. It basically punishes you for working. UBI, on the other hand, is incredibly streamlined. By dropping the intrusive means testing, it completely restores personal autonomy and dignity. It essentially trusts people to make the best decisions for their own lives. And beyond just making administration easier, the societal benefits could be absolutely profound. Think about it. A properly calibrated UBI acts as a permanent financial floor that could literally eliminate extreme poverty overnight. It would be an automatic economic shock absorber whenever a recession or a pandemic hits. Plus, it empowers people to take calculated risks. You might actually go back to school or start a business if you aren't terrified of immediate destitution. And maybe most importantly, it dramatically reduces the chronic, grinding financial stress that we know leads directly to poor physical and mental health.
Of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Section 5, the challenges and debates. Okay, brace yourself for this number. $3 to $4 trillion. Trillion with a T. That staggering figure is the estimated gross annual cost to give every single adult in the U.S. $1,000 a month. To put that into perspective, that would potentially double the country's entire existing annual discretionary spending. So yeah, the fiscal feasibility challenge is, without a doubt, the single biggest hurdle UBI faces. To even make a dent in a cost like that, policymakers are talking about profound structural changes to the economy. We aren't just talking about tweaking the budget here. This involves massive ideas like completely abolishing and consolidating existing welfare programs into one single cash payout. It could mean implementing new consumption taxes, like a value-added tax or a carbon tax. It would almost certainly require taxing capital and rethinking wealth redistribution. And interestingly, it also brings up the idea of a technology and automation dividend, basically taxing the very companies that are replacing human labor with machines. Ironically enough, this is an idea heavily championed by the tech billionaires building those exact machines, folks like Elon Musk and Sam Altman. Then there's the big labor supply question, the one everyone immediately asks. If you give people enough money to survive, won't they just quit their jobs? Critics are terrified of a mass exodus from the workforce, especially from low-wage roles. But surprisingly, the pilot evidence we have so far shows only very modest reductions in work hours. And get this, those reductions primarily come from young parents who shift their time to childcare or students dropping a part-time shift to focus on building their skills and education. It turns out, the desire to contribute and find a sense of purpose is a pretty resilient human trait. But what about inflation? That's another massive macroeconomic concern. The fear is that if you suddenly inject trillions of dollars into the market, prices will just skyrocket. This is especially risky in what economists call inelastic markets, places where supply can't easily jump up to meet new demand, like housing and healthcare. Think about it. If everyone suddenly has an extra $1,000, what's to stop landlords from just raising rent by $1,000? That would completely nullify the whole benefit. So to prevent that, UBI would almost certainly need to be paired with really aggressive supply-side interventions, like building way more affordable housing. And aside from the hardcore economics, running a UBI program successfully means navigating some unbelievably complex real-world governance issues. You have to ensure bulletproof identity verification to stop mass fraud, but without turning into a creepy surveillance state. You need the infrastructure to bank the unbanked populations so they can actually get the money. You have to manage those messy housing market dynamics we just talked about. And perhaps the toughest challenge of all, securing enough political sustainability so the program actually survives turbulent election cycles and the constant shifting of media narratives. Finally, let's zoom out a bit for Section 6, a future beyond work. What's genuinely fascinating is that this concept is way older than modern tech or AI. All the way back in the 18th century, the political philosopher Thomas Paine wrote in Agrarian Justice that every citizen should receive a ground rent as a rightful share of the Earth's natural wealth. The core philosophy here is actually quite beautiful. It treats people as inherently valuable simply for existing, not just as cogs in some giant labor machine. And today, as artificial intelligence forces us to confront the very real, very stark possibility of technological unemployment, this philosophical shift is quickly becoming a practical necessity. Decoupling our basic survival from employment might just be the boldest, most effective tool we have to ensure that our incredible leaps in technology actually serve humanity, and not the other way around. UBI could be the bridge to a world where AI creates unprecedented abundance rather than mass destitution. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to chew on today. What kind of society do we actually want to live in when machines can do most of the work? Because at the end of the day, this discussion isn't really just about tax policy or free money or welfare efficiency. It's about the very future of human value, purpose, and dignity. And as this massive technological transition unfolds, every single one of us needs to be part of the conversation. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.